I was just like 10 years old when I scaled my first pinnacle. And at that point, I feel like I was too young to actually understand what was around me, or to like, actually like interpret what was happening around me. But like location wise, I would say that it's just been like very peaceful for me, because the mountains, the forts that we have here in Sahyadri, especially like in the morning and evening when this like breeze like sweeps you away, that's like the best feeling for me.
From Unboxing Stories, this is Himalayan Diaries. I'm your host, Ojas. We often hear warnings like don't climb that ladder or stay away from the edge, especially directed at children. Our guest today, Khushi Kambhoj, has not only defied all these cautions but also redefined the possibilities that a young mountaineer can achieve. At just 11, she became the first young female to conquer Kalari Pinnacle near Lonavala. Her trailblazing didn't stop there. She was also the first to master three formidable forts of Sahyadri, Alang, Malang, and Kurang at a very young age. Scaling new heights, she reached the Everest Base Camp and Kala Patthar, marking her as the first female mountaineer from southwest Maharashtra to achieve this feat. And there are countless more firsts that she has achieved. Let's dive into her inspiring journey, a mountaineer who continues to break the records and challenge the norms. Welcome, Khushi, to Himalayan Diaries, and thank you so much for joining.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Before we start, I have a question for you. If you have a power to create a new mountain all for yourself, like one that has all the favorite characteristics of a perfect mountain, what would that dream mountain look like for you, and what are the unique features of that mountain?
Okay, so honestly, to be honest, my dream mountain already exists. Like I don't have to recreate it. But then again, like if I'm given the liberty of creating my own mountain, then obviously the mountain's gonna have rock faces to climb. It has to have ice walls to climb. It has to have snow where I get to do like glacier walking. Along with that, it has to be like technically very challenging in a sense that I'll actually have to use a lot of my capabilities and have to like think the route thorough. It has to have all these challenges of these overhanging seracs and hanging glaciers, all of it, so that I actually, get to express the truest spirit of mountaineering on that mountain. So I don't think it's going to be like possible for me to climb the way I've narrated the entire mountain. But yeah, this definitely like sums up my dream mountain, and there are so many mountains out there that actually offer me all these challenges.
Mm-hmm. So you said the dream mountain already exists. Which one is that?
So it's Amadablam, like it's been so Amadablam is a peak. It's located in Nepal. It stands like 6,812 feet high, I mean meters high. And I actually attempted to climb that mountain the year before, 2024, in 2022. But then I had to return halfway through because my health deteriorated and I developed the Khumbu cough.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not finish that mountain. So it's like my dream mountain. It's like it's a stunning peak. It's, you could definitely say that it's the most beautiful peak in the world. And also like it's technically 10 times more challenging than Mount Everest. Like even if the height of this peak is less than that of Mount Everest, it's like technically it consumes you entirely. It's like, you just check out the pictures online and you'll understand.
Mm-hmm. 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 I gave a brief introduction about you. I don't know if it was because I read it on a website and I'm not sure if something have changed, if something I missed out. So how will you describe yourself?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Khushi Kambhoj and I'm from Kolhapur. I am 22 years old and my passion is rock climbing and mountaineering. I am currently pursuing MBA in finance and marketing, but I feel like I do climbing and mountaineering kind of like a full-time thing. So, yeah, I started climbing in 2011. on the first death anniversary of my brother. So like I lost my elder brother Karthik in a road accident, and he was like a very flourished mountaineer. So in his memory, my dad organized a rock climbing expedition to this pinnacle called Karakraya. And me, I decided to just participate in that expedition without a hint about what mountaineering or rock climbing is. Maybe, at that point, it just felt like the most accurate thing to do, the most wholesome way I could pay homage to my brother. And that's why I decided to participate in this expedition, and I ventured into the field of mountaineering and climbing. So this first expedition actually gave me a lot of insights about what rock climbing and mountaineering is. I mean, I wouldn't really say mountaineering here because like I was on the rock, so more about what rock climbing is. And I truly like fell in love of just being there in the outdoors, climbing, and the cathartic feeling of just like hanging onto a cliff, and like, you never know what's gonna happen next. So all these things, kind of like actually challenged me. And there was just this tiny thing inside me that was actually enjoying all the hardships and like overcoming these challenges and all of that. And that's how like I actually got into climbing. And over the years, I would say that I've just like explored more into it. And as you say, like if you love doing what you're doing, then you just keep doing more and more of it, even if you're like failing in it. So that's how I got into climbing. And today, I'll actually like do a lot of rock climbing. You can say professionally also, because I've been doing that for like 12 years now. And apart from that, I am a student. I'm still studying in college, and I'm still trying to figure out my life because I have no idea what I'm going to do 5 years down the line.
I'm laughing because you said you're 22 years old, 22 years old, with 12 years of experience in this field, which is absolutely mind blowing. And it's amazing what you have achieved till now. And I'm sure you will continue to achieve in future as well. But that's a very touching story that how you got into this field. Can you talk about your first introductions to the Himalayas?
All right. So, but my first encounter of the Himalayas in terms of like, after me getting into, rock climbing, mountaineering, and all that was in 2020, it was in 2014
Mm-hmm.
when I was in eighth grade and I went to Nepal for Everest Base Camp. So
Oh,
my first encounter of the Himalayas in terms of mountaineering, rock climbing, trekking has been to Everest Base Camp. Like that's the
wow.
first thing I ever did in life in terms of Himalayas. And to be honest, it opened a new dimension towards me. Because like before that, I was only climbing in the Sahyadris, and I was just like open to the challenges that were up front in the Sahyadris and everything that was available there. But the moment I went to Nepal and I stepped into the Himalayas, there was like this majestic thing which is something I cannot describe in words. Like what I felt at that point of time is truly surreal and magical. And I just saw mountains that are like 10,000 times bigger than me, 10,000 times bigger than Sayadri, to climb on, 10,000 more times challenging, technical, and harsh. So that's like my first encounter with the Himalayas, and ever since then, I feel like I fell in love with the Himalayas, and I kind of became more of a Himalaya person after that. Like, if before that, if you would have asked me, I would have like chosen Sayadri in a blink of an eye. But after my first witness of the Himalayas, I just like I fell magically in love with the Himalayas. And to this day, every time I am in Himalayas, I feel like enchanted. Like it's just so beautiful being there. I mean, I can spend my entire life being in the Himalayas. But to answer your question, my first encounter of the Himalayas was during Everest Base Camp. And just because it was not like a technical climb, I just had to hike to the base camp, which took like around 13 to 14 days. It was not that challenging for me because like all I had to do was walk. I did not have to use my brain in terms of like technical skills or anything specific. And but the experience was like truly magnifying. Like I mean, I don't have to explain it to you because you have been to the Himalayas and you know what Himalayas does to a person. But like, if I have to like express what Himalayas is to people out there, like through your podcast, I mean, I'm truly like out of words because where do I even start? Like, these peaks, I mean, more than the beauty, I feel like there's this vibration that's there in the Himalayas that the moment you enter Himalayas, it's like your body just cleanses itself, like it detoxes, and you just get into a different mindset in the mind zone, and you forget about past, you forget about the future, and you're just in the present. I mean, that is Himalayas for me.
Wow, that's the most beautiful explanation of Himalayas that I've heard. And it's true. It's true. I can completely vouch for that. And after that, I'm sure you have done so many Himalayan treks as well and expeditions as well. But I want to focus, since you are more into climbing and more into equipment driven mountaineering. w- what are your some of your best expedition experiences? And just to explain what an expedition is and how different it is from just as you mentioned, it was just a walk for Everest Base Camp. For describing Everest Base Camp, you said it was easy for you. Obviously, because you are trained and you have so much of training in terms of technical aspects of mountaineering. That's why you find trekking a bit easier than what others would find it. But can you explain more on the technical aspects? I mean, the things that you have learned through your experiences or from the mountaineering courses.
All right. So, I would begin by explaining the difference about being on an expedition and being on a trek.
Sure.
So, as I said, like the first trek that I ever did was Everest Base Camp. So, for me to reach the base of Everest, it's going to take a lot of walking to do, where I don't have to use any technical skills, which means all I have to do is walk in my hiking boots and I'm going to reach that place without using any artificial gear. But if I'm considering an expedition here, then expedition is something that starts after base camp. Say for example, we've reached Everest Base Camp and now we are planning to climb Mount Everest. So the journey from the base of Everest to the summit of Everest is something that you call an expedition. Like, I mean, that journey, because it requires a lot of technical climbing, technical gear. What in term, I mean, now you'll ask me what is technical climbing and what is technical gear.
Hmm.
So technical gear is everything from the ropes that are established on the routes, from the harnesses that you wear, from the carabiners that you use, from the helmet that you wear. See, again, even helmet comes under technical because if you are just hiking to the base camp, you will not need any of this. You're wearing just your normal clothes, your hiking shoes, a cap, goggles to go, and you're good to go. But if you're doing an expedition, then you need all the even if you're doing it on snow or ice, then you need your mountaineering boots, then you need crampons, then you need an ice axe, then you need a harness, helmet, then there's rope, there's jumar, there's your self anchor, and the kind of stuff you need for climbing expedition in the Sahyadris or on rock is equally similar. It's just that you do not need as much layering on your body, and the kind of shoes that you use for climbing in Sahyadri, they are quite different. And I feel like you use a lot more equipment in Sahyadri because with rope there comes quick draw, where you clip in the rope, and when you're lead climbing, when you're actually like opening a route, then you use a jumar, you use a gree, then you use different sorts of carabiners, and then there are a lot of tapes that, I mean, see, these are the things that you use when you actually come across a challenge and you have to like tackle something, or you have to like do some rope management or like some technical management on the way up. But like normally it's the same equipment both the places. It's just like you have to use different shoes. And apart from that, the expedition in Sayadri, it does not like last longer than I feel like 2, 3 days. tops when you're like climbing on a rock. Okay, so now let me explain the difference about trekking in Sahyadri and doing an expedition in Sahyadri. So
Okay.
again, trekking in Sahyadri is something where you're just walking, where you're hiking with like having gradual ups and downs or like steep ups and downs, where you're not using anything artificial to, climb up a particular patch of rock or a patch of wall. Whereas expedition, rock climbing expedition is somewhere like say for example, we have thousands of pinnacle like projections in Sayadri. We have a lot of walls like vertical 90-degree or overhanging walls that are like 300 feet tall, 500 feet tall, where you're actually like just rock climbing. So that's where again, technical climbing comes in the place, because you're just using the tip of your fingers and the tip of your toes, and you're like climbing on a terrain where you have no idea if you have anything to hold on to or if you don't have anything to hold on to. And that's how it happens. Like my biggest expedition, which was to Kokankada, which was like an 1800 feet cliff, it took us like 5 days to climb it. And then again, you have to sleep on the wall. Like in the Himalayas, at least you can pitch a tent wherever you're staying. But in the Sayadris, that's kind of difficult to do that. So you have to like hang and spend the night.
So you are saying that it took 4 to 5 days. That means you have to sleep wherever you are at that point. Is it like that?
See, most of the climbs that as I told you, like they are hardly like 300, 400 feet, and like you get that done in a day. But like Kokankada is like a massive expedition. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like we'll definitely be talking about it later. I mean, about Kokankada. But yeah, it took like 4 days, and when you're like doing an expedition as big as that, there is this particular I don't know what to call it, a particular piece of no, cannot call it an equipment, but like a bed-like thing, which is called a portaledge, which you carry all the way up and you hang it on the cliff. And it's like, it's rectangular in shape and two people can sleep on it. And just like it's hung on a bolt and you're like resting on it and sleeping on it. You'll find it online. Just look for a portaledge.
Mhm.
That's what
I
people.
mean, I mean, I have done a trek to Harishchandragad where the Kokankada is, and when we reached there, like people were telling stories that there are climbers who climb this Kokankada, and actually meeting you, the one who has done it. I mean, it's such a pleasure. But I'm I just can't imagine how you climb that, because it's so steep and it's so dangerous. So can you explain the whole process now that we are talking about the Kokankada? How you start from the base? Where do you start? Do you require any permissions?
So Kokankada is like an 1800 feet big wall, which actually like inclines into an overhanging cliff after 1000 feet of climbing. So if you start climbing vertically, and then after that, the entire climb just comes on you. It goes into like an overhanging curve, and that's how you reach the top. So Kokankada is a cliff on Harishchandragad Fort, and the Harishchandragad Fort is located. So basically, that fort is like the center point for Ahmednagar, Pune, and Thane district. Like the center point of all these three districts is Harishchandragad, and Kokankada is the cliff that faces the Konkan side of Harishchandragad Fort. So it is again an 1800 feet big wall. And talking about Kokankada, almost all the rock climbers climbing in Sayadri or climbing in India aspire to climb this big wall at some point in their life. Like when you're a trekker, people want to like complete the Everest Base Camp trek, or if you're talking about Maharashtra, then people want to do Karsubai.
Hmm.
So in the same way, we're talking about rock climbing, then it is the dream of every climber to, climb Kokankada once in their life, to actually like, feel the thrill about being on the wall. So similarly, like, obviously, when you look at Kokankada as a climber, you feel and you want to like some point of time. But if you're asking my opinion, I always like admired Kokankada and I wanted to climb it in my life. But at the same time, I knew that this is not my thing. Like in a way that I am not capable or I'm not prepared enough to climb Kokankada yet. and it's gonna take me like years of practice to even step foot on Kokankada. And that was, all this thinking just came because to this date, I mean, out of all the climbers that are out there in India or in Maharashtra, only you can say 2% to 3% of the people attempt on
Wow.
climbing Kokankada.
Mhm.
Yeah. And out of that, only zero point 0.1 people, 0.1 percentage of the that population gets successful
Oh,
in
wow.
summiting the peak. So, and all these people who attempted so far had been like climbers with like huge, immaculate amount of experience climbing for like 15 years, 20 years, and like, who had like actually established something in climbing. So when, we used to hear about people scaling Kokankada, I would never like, I never thought that, this is something that I would actually do, because all these people are the people that I consider to be my idol. So if they are like climbing this peak after gaining like so much experience in their life, then for me to even think about it did not make sense. I mean, like, I did not really think about it. So like the biggest thank you for that particular thing goes to my mentor, Ganesh Geet.
Mhm.
So he's the one who actually ignited the thought of like Kokankada is to be climbed and we are going to climb Kokankada. So initially I used to like not react to him at all. So every time he made a statement, we are going to climb Kokankada, I would just like go blank. I would not say a single thing. I would not even, act positive on that note, or I would not like actually eliminate, I mean, talk negative about it. But I would just like be there and like not respond to it because I could not comprehend or process the entire thought. So that's how it started. And like slowly and steadily, we actually started, specifically working towards that direction. And my climbing partner, Arman, so she's from Sangli. And the climbs that I've done so far, we've done like, we do it like together when we're climbing in Sahyadri. We are like partners and we climb together wherever we go. And apart from that, I have another mentor, Mehboob Mujawar uncle, who has actually accompanied me in all the Himalayan expeditions that I have done before. And like he has come into my life way before Ganesh Dada came into my life.
Mhm.
And like I would still say that since the time Ganesh has come into my life, I feel my perspective about looking towards rock climbing or mountaineering has changed, and I as a climber I have also like evolved. So Arman and I, we normally like we go climbing, and we started specifically working towards Kokankada's direction. Like, so we came up with a base plan to climb Kokankada. What is it that we need? We needed good technical knowledge, we needed good aid climbing knowledge, and we needed good rock climbing experience, like climbing on rock. So we specifically started working on all of that. And four, you need like immense amount of body strength to, sustain for that long on the wall. And again, like mount rock climbing is, you need strength in your body to perform rock climbing. So we started working towards the entire journey. One thing we could do every day was like train, like, get stronger. And secondly, go rock climbing. So we went rock climbing whenever possible. And when we could not like go on rock, we were practicing on an artificial wall. And then the second obstacle was that we had to tackle was to figure out aid climbing. So in terms of aid climbing, we actually like, conquered two pinnacles in Sahyadri, which actually involve you to like do aid climbing.
What is air climbing?
So basically, there are sections in a climb where there is nothing you can hold on to. Okay. Like, even if you like want to like look out for a tiny handhold on the wall, there is nothing, like literally nothing. It's like just a smooth surface. That's where, you do aid climbing, and that is like you use two ladders. So you have to like stand up on a ladder, and then you have to like step foot, and then you have to like attach another ladder above that, and then you sit on your harness, then you step on the next ladder, you remove the ladder that's there niche, I mean the ladder that's below you, and then you again like place it above you
During the climb.
during the climb. Yeah, so like
Right.
I mean Kokankada is like the last 600 feet of Kokankada is entirely aid climbing, and that too it's like aid climbing on a vertical wall is another thing. Imagine aid climbing on a wall that's like overhanging. I mean, like it just comes above you, and you're like literally, you're sitting on your seat harness, but like you have no contact to the wall. You're like literally hanging on to a tiny piece of board that's there, and your legs are like, you're able to like move your legs, and there's like thousands of feet of valley below you. And every time sitting on that harness before taking the next move, it's crazy. So, that's a skill that I we had to like work on again, because we had to do like 600 feet of aid climbing. That's why we had to learn how to do it efficiently, because we could not like just waste time climbing it, because that would have been again problematic for us, as we would have had to like spend more amount of time on the wall. So aid climbing, and the other thing that I said was like technical knowledge. So technical knowledge, we would have like we actually like worked on it throughout the climbs only. Like the more we went climbing, the more technically sound we ended up becoming. And we actually started working in the direction. We climbed Bhairavgarh, we climbed Nana Changtha, we climbed on Duke's Nose, and we were just like training on an artificial wall in Pune at Rajesh Shivaji, and we were training in Lonavala at Dela Adventures. So all of this experience kind of actually, just gave us a hope that, maybe, yes, maybe we can actually attempt to climb it. And then after that, we went on a Reiki to Kokankada to actually like see what the climb is like. So, but that time, what happened was we did not get a look of Kokankada from down below. Okay, we went via the Harishchandragad route. We
Hmm.
reached the top of Harishchandragad, and we saw Kokankada top to bottom, not
From the
bottom
top.
to top.
Okay.
You cannot see anything, right? Because the entire thing is like overhung.
Uh,
You cannot see the entire section of the climb because it's hidden.
yeah.
So that time what we did was we got from the top, we went like a couple of like not a couple, we went like 40 feet below the summit, and from there we did aid climbing to the top. And that kind of like gave us a little more confidence, because I feel the most difficult challenge to tackle at Kokankada is exposure. So
Hmm.
we were quite comfortable when we were even like just 30 feet below summit, and the entire valley was beneath us. And it was kind of scary because staying at that like that height, or like hanging particularly there, it's fine for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But when you have to like spend hours together at that height, it's like it starts getting dizzy. It's as if like everything is just like rounding around you, and you feel like just gonna faint any moment. So that is something that used to happen to us while that during the actual climb. But for during when we went for Reiki, I feel like it kind of like built a confidence within us that, oh yes, we can do it. I mean, it's not as difficult as it sounds, or like what people have told us. So that's how we started preparing, and everything went through. And till the last day, till the last day we were supposed to leave for the climb, people had their doubts on Arman and I that we would not scale that. We would not scale Kokankada, because best of the best climbers have attempted to climb on Kokankada, and 99% of them have not been successful. And also the expeditions that have been successful, nobody has climbed it in like one go, like from base to top. Like people have started climbing, and then they've stopped, then they've come back down, and then after a couple of days or the next day they've gone up, and then they've again like started climbing. But in our case, we started climbing and we never came down. Like all we did was we went to the top. We stayed also wherever we got done climbing for that particular day. But that's how it went for us. And then it kind of was disappointing for us, is like why people do not believe that we would actually make it to the summit. So there was this one thing that we wanted to like climb it, because we also wanted to prove it to people that yes, we can do it. And one big like doubt people had that we would not be able to do it was because no female until then had thought, I mean, had even attempted to touch the wall, or like had climbed the wall. So we were gonna be like the first women in history to
Wow.
scale Kokan. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds all like glamorous and stuff, but trust me, it's like I mean, at the end of the day, it was more about the climb for us. Like we enjoyed the climb thoroughly. So the Kokankada climb, it has been like divided into five different segments. You reach the base camp from where the climb begins. It takes you like 1 day to reach the base camp from Patsanai village. So we started from Lonavala, and the next stop was directly at Patsanai village. We stayed the night over there, and the next day at around like 10 a.m. we started walking. Imagine we just discussed how nasty it gets climbing in the month of May, how hot it is, and the entire expedition took place in the month of May. Like 4th May we reached Patsanai, 5th May we were trekking from the base camp, I mean from Patsanai village to the Kokankada base camp, and 6th we started climbing. So as I was telling you, the entire climb, it has been like divided into five segments. So the first section is base camp to advanced base camp, which is like 1,000 feet of climbing. Then from advanced base camp, you reach Lizard's Head, which is another 200 feet of climbing. And then from there, from Lizard's Head, you go to Pali Tadoka, uh, and from there you reach like the summit. So
Okay.
the first day when we started climbing, we started from the base camp, and we started like at around 9 in the morning from the base camp, like rock climbing, like the technical climbing. And by 3 p.m. we had reached advanced base camp. Like we'd completed 1,000 feet of climbing, and we had like established our base camp. And base camp kind of has like a lot of space, okay? So you can like set up two tents at the advanced base camp and sleep the night in the tent, and eat, cook, and all of that. So the next day, early in the morning, we started climbing from advanced base camp, and then the next place that we had to reach was Pali Tadoko. So we started climbing, and apparently, like the section from advanced base camp to Pali Tsadoka, it's quite technical, I mean, climbing wise, it's difficult. So we actually estimated that we would get done with the climbing in 1 day, but we could not because again, another issue we had was when we climbed. So what we do is we do lead climbing, which means that there is no rope from top that comes to us, right? We are climbing and we are like setting the rope while we are climbing. So one thing that was there in this particular section was that the placement of bolts. So the placement of bolts was like north and south. If I am placing, like if I'm clipping a bolt right where I'm standing, the next bolt's gonna be like 40 feet higher. So there was like this fear of like going in the wrong direction or like falling halfway through, and then that would have ended up in becoming like a very big fall. So all these things considered, we were quite scared while tackling this particular pitch, and we had our doubts while climbing this pitch that, oh, this is difficult and maybe we might not be actually able to finish it. But then at the end of the day, it's all about overcoming your fears and overcoming everything that's going in your brain and actually achieving it. And in 2 days time, we tackled that particular pitch, and we reached Pali Tadoka. And from there, the next challenge was to reach Sasana Ledge. So
Mhm.
from Palitha, I mean the Lizard's Head, from that particular point is where you start aid climbing. So aid
Okay.
climbing is something that I explained where you're using like ladder,
Mhm.
and you're sitting on your harness, and then you have to like stand on your ladder, use all your upper body strength, hold yourself higher, and then release the ladder that's below you, and then again place it higher. And sometimes that boat is like so high that you can't like just easily get it. You have to like actually get on the topmost stair of the ladder and like attach it. So it is like it is so difficult. I mean, like it's like you don't have to technically use your skills for climbing, but you have to technically use your gear, and the amount of strength that's needed for that, don't even get me started on that. And also like Palita Doka, the lizard's head, is from where the overhanging section starts. So
Okay.
the overhang also starts, and you have to like start lead climbing also. So that day, like I was leading the route from the lizard's head, and I started it, and it was so draining. Like I used to like just do one ladder, the second ladder, and then I used to sit for like 3 minutes, then 3 to 5 minutes, or sometimes 10 minutes. And I feel like the first 1 hour I spent in just getting used to the feeling of, sitting on my harness where my feet is not touching the rock. Like I'm sitting on an harness, and there's like thousands of feet valley below me, and I have to like climb, and I have to trust my equipment, like with everything that I have. I mean, I feel like maybe I just got used to the feeling because I had no other choice. Like, I had to trust my equipment either to go up or to go down. And I decided that I'm going up. And I stopped thinking about the fact that what if, I clip it and I fall. Like, I mean, I knew that, I was nothing was gonna happen. I was not gonna fall. But again, like, you can imagine that there was like just so much going on, and the entire rock was just coming on me because it was overhung, and I had to like sit on my harness, and I had to actually experience all of it. So it like actually got to me, but in some way I was able to reach Sasana Ledge by 3 p.m. And then my partner Arman, she came up by like 5:30. She had to like clear all. So basically the role of two people climbing together is that if the person who's leading is like setting all the equipment while going up, the person who comes the next is actually like clearing the equipment that is being placed on the way. So she came to Sasana Ledge. That's where we like again like set up our portal in the evening. We spent the night. I mean, spending the night was a disaster, to be honest, because we had to like sleep with our harnesses on our backs, and the helmet used to be on our heads, and there was like thousands of feet of rope all around us.
So is it like a hanging bed that you have to sleep?
Yes, it is a hanging bed. You just clip it on a bolt. It's hanging. You sleep on that. That's what a portal ledge is. And it's rectangular. Only two people can sleep on it. Imagine like we had to brush our teeth. I mean, everything we had to do on that portage because we were there on the cliff for like 5 whole days, like 4 nights we spent there. My first night on the portage, I was a chaos. I was crying the entire night. I was like, I can't sleep on this. I would rather, hang myself on the cliff and like sit than like sleep on this portage because it was like so difficult for me to trust the fact that I was not gonna fall. But obviously, like I was not gonna fall, but then it was like a new experience, my first experience on the portal ledge. But the second night went, I mean, the night after that, it just like got much more easier and I could like get peaceful sleep. So that's how we reached Sasana Ledge. And then from Sasana Ledge, again, the next day, I started leading the climb. And the next day was the summit. So also apparently, every day, even if we wanted to like start climbing at 6 a.m. in the morning, we could not. Like, we would get freshened up and ready by 5:30 in the morning. But after that, we literally spent like 1.5 hours just clearing out the gear, sorting the equipment, sorting the ropes, because we had like four different ropes on the portalage along with us, and like bundle of equipment, like so much of equipment that it was so difficult for us to actually function in that small 4 by 8 feet of bed that we were staying in, which had like the ropes also, the equipment also, our bags also, our water, our head torches, and everything in just that tiny piece of bed, portable bed. And we had to actually like shift from right to left, had to look after our safety, had to like sort out the ropes. And then we would start climbing at like 7:30. I mean, 2 hours we would just spend in sorting out the equipment on the ledge. And around like 7:30-ish, I started climbing. And by 12:10, I reached the summit of Kokankada. And following Arman came by 2:30 to the summit. So that's how Kokankada happened and it took place.
And what was the feeling after you reached the top?
I mean, a lot of people always ask me, like, how is it when I accomplish a task? I mean, every time you do something and you accomplish a task, there is this feeling of satisfaction that's always there. Like, I was happy, I was surreal. I mean, to be honest, like, every person that had doubted us before we went for the climb, all the faces just like started coming in front of me. And I was like, we've done it. History has been created, and I was so happy. I mean, my mom and dad were so happy. But for me, it's more about the process, like more than
Mhm.
reaching the top. For me, it is important to endure and experience the journey. Like the satisfaction I feel while I'm facing the challenges and while I'm actually going through the entire process is the reason why I actually climb. Like, the perks of being on the top, accomplishing a task and enjoying the fantastic view. It's like it comes with the thing, but it's more about the mental constraint it gets on me and how I accomplish it.
And how old were you when you did this?
I was 20.
Oh, wow. You are an inspiration for the youngsters. You are inspiration for all the girls. You are inspiration for all the mountaineers and climbers that are out there. And I'm privileged that you are part of this podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I mean, I'm so grateful that you wanted to do an episode with me.
How was your first impression of the mountains that you saw? I'm sure you said that you were going into the mountains from a very young age, but the first memory that you remember that, oh, it's something different.
Okay, so apparently the first memory, like I know that I was in the Sahyadris and I was climbing in the Sahyadris was, as I mentioned, on the first death anniversary of my brother when I scaled my first pinnacle. And to be honest, I was just like 10 years old when I scaled my first pinnacle. And at that point, I feel like my initial years of climbing, they have been more about, just like going with the flow. Like I was too young to actually understand what was around me, or to actually interpret what was happening around me. But like location wise, I would say that it's just been like very peaceful for me, because the mountains, the forts that we have here in Sahyadri, especially like in the morning and evening when this breeze sweeps you away, that's like the best feeling for me. And I kind of like I've spent my first initial couple of years climbing in the Sahyadri. That's why I would say like I consider Sahyadri to be like a god to me. Like I always worship, being a mountaineer, I consider like mountains to be my god. And in on that, I would say that Sahyadri is like has holds like an utmost pivotal place in my heart. Also because Shivaji Maharaj, he is the reason why we have Sahyadris here today. That's the reason why we're able to climb on all these pinnacles or trek on all these forts. So um that's where we are born from. These are the roots that I've come from, and everything that I've achieved so far. Like maybe may it be all the records that I've broken, or the climbs that I've done in the Himalayas or in Karnataka or wherever else that I've been to. It would not have been possible if I did not have Sahyadris with me. Like Sahyadri has actually helped me to build my base in climbing, and it has helped me to achieve other things in other parts of the country. Also, like one thing I can definitely tell you is like, regardless, even if like Himalayas is like a bigger range, even if it's like a longer range, the things that you learn in Sahyadri, you will be able to use them anywhere in the world, because in terms of climbing, at least Sahyadri requires a lot of technical climbing. Like in terms of Himalayas, you don't need that much of technique. But if you're climbing in Sahyadri, you have to be like technically sound. And also like Sahyadri is made up of basalt rock, and basalt rock is known to like rip off, chip off anytime. Like you get a hold in your hand, and there's like a 99% probability that it's just gonna like chip off. So
Mhm.
all the to you have to like tackle all these things, and to actually understand the mountain anatomy. And also the heat in Sahyadri, it's like it's intense.
Mhm.
Climbing and trekking in Sahyadri during, I mean, I feel any time of the year except for like December, January, February, it's bad. So facing the extreme sun and like climbing in Sahyadri with all these loose rocks around you, I feel like it prepares you for a much difficult challenge that you can face somewhere else.
Yeah. In Sahyadris, the most beautiful thing that I love is when you complete the climb. In general, if you are climbing any mountain, the the reason you climb mountains is that you get beautiful views and amazing scenery. But in Sahyadris, in because there are so many forts, you not only get the views, but you get to see the history and the architecture as well. So, what are the experiences that you had on those lines?
See, everybody knows like the forts that have been built, they are like beautiful. And to this day, people are questioning the fact that how did people build such forts at this height? Like, how did they carry stuff up there to, even construct a fort? But, I am actually more saddened by the fact that, people are not maintaining the forts to its integrity. Like,
Mhm.
you'll go for like anywhere. Now, I just consider like a fort that's accessible for everybody. Take Sinhagad, for example.
Yeah.
If you go there, you'll see people have written things on the wall and like, actually have deteriorated the integrity of the fort. And also there you'll find like so much of plastic and waste everywhere. And the government has also not taken like enough action to like protect these forts. Like some of these forts that I've been to, which are like completely isolated from people, you'll see that, people, I mean, there's a staircase that goes up all the way up towards the fort, and the entire staircase has been broken down. So I feel like, these things, I mean, it's a history that has to be protected for people to know. Like, and I mean, more than for people to know, it's like it's something that I feel everybody should know to, actually be proud of the place that we come from, and also like to, preserve it. So that's one thing that I find quite saddening lately, is that people are not taking precautions enough to, take care of the forts. But regardless that, I mean, hats off to everything that has been done or conquered. I mean, I am speechless about it, to be honest, because just think about it, like these big forts which have taken like years to be constructed, and which have been constructed at such an height that you have no idea that how did these people even go up
Mhm.
and took all the material up the mountain and started the construction. And again, the architecture, I mean, it is just so systematically and scientifically well planned. Like,
Yeah.
the wells that have been constructed, the natural water reservoirs, or even every, like the east facing door, the west facing door, the doors from where you can access, I mean, you can actually see the enemies come in and get defensive. All of it, it's just like, it's beautiful. And I feel like people should go and should visit these places because, more than like seeing the view or the architecture, I feel like, going on a trek, going to a fort, and actually going to a fort and then understanding the history of that particular fort kind of like, builds this particular um thing
Respect.
inside you. Respect also, but this particular thing, desire, that, when you're getting back from the fort, there is something you get back with
Yeah.
yourself. It can be, it is a small commitment also, or a sense of satisfaction that you come back with, and which helps, which actually like, ignites a passion within you to like wanting to explore more, wanting to know more, maybe in this area or other area. But it's like an experience that everybody should have.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think one of my favorite fort is Raigad. I think you have seen that as well. And the first time I trekked to the top of the fort and I saw the structure. I was mesmerized by how well organized everything was there in, I think, 16th century. And it's mind blowing. I mean, I could just see it's just to describe, there is an entrance to the Bale Killa, it is called Bale Killa. It's the main courtyard, and when you enter, you can just imagine how I was just thinking how it must have looked in the 16th century when it was operational, and it must have been decorated, and it was just amazing, amazing experience.
Yeah, it's an experience of its own. And, people, I feel like, once you trek, once you step into the outdoors, maybe for any reason, you just find this something about yourself that, really helps you in life. keep you to it keeps you together. And again, like, we are homo sapiens, we are meant to be in the outdoors. Like, we've been brought up as hunters and gatherers back in the day, and that's why, like, people today should definitely go in the outdoors, should explore, and like should understand everything that's been going around. I was on an expedition recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in Ladakh for a month, and then I was in Himachal for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the weather is shifting over there, I mean, it's scary. You
Yeah.
know, like, apricots are supposed to be, like, long gone by by August. And I
Mm-hmm.
was in Leh in the month of September, and the apricots had, they had just like ripened.
Mm-hmm.
People were like plucking them. And apart from that, also, if you see all these mountain glaciers, so even Gangotri, these glaciers have, melted like kilometers together. Say, for
Yeah.
example, a glacier is like 20 kilometers long, then today that glacier is only hardly like a couple of feet.
Yeah.
So the amount, yeah, I mean, it's scary. And when I'm up there climbing, the weather changes dramatically. Like, if it's hot, it's like it's crazy hot, like you cannot take the sun. And if it is cold, then it's again very nasty. Like, I have no words to explain it. And I mean, staying here in Kolhapur, Maharashtra, or wherever, like all these secure places, you don't actually get to experience it that much. But if you're like in the extremities, like how I am in the mountains, then it's bad. Like, you ask any mountaineer who's been on an expedition recently, maybe anywhere in the Himalayas, nobody's gonna give you. And also, like, you'll see the amount of fatalities that have happened this year. I feel the
Mm-hmm.
amount of people that have died on Everest the past season, it's like it's recorded as the highest number of people who've died. And there have been like problems happening everywhere. Avalanches have taken place at so many places. So many people have died because of that. And all of this is happening because of global warming, and we are the ones who are responsible for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True. I want to take you a little bit back to your first climb in the Sahyadris itself, and you said that it was very unplanned and you had no idea of what it is to climb. So it was basically untrained. You were not trained to climb a mountain, right? And after that, you got your training. So how was that journey from and experience as well from being a untrained climber or a mountaineer to becoming a trained because you have completed mountaineering course, advanced mountaineering course, and so many things. I can't keep track of all those things. So many courses that you have professionally learned mountaineering and climbing. So how has that journey and how much difference have you felt by not having training and doing the climbs and then having proper training?
Okay, so see, my first climb was when I was 10 years old. And I had no idea what climbing is, what rock climb, I mean, what mountaineering is, what kind of equipment is used in climbing, what is not used in climbing. So a mere 10-year-old just goes for a climb. And to be honest, when you don't know anything, you actually end up like, trusting people around you. And you're like, okay, I've been told to do this, I have to do this. Like, you don't think about how what the equipment is. That time I had no experience, and I did not know a thing. And me being a small kid, what I was told to do is something that I did, and that's how I conquered my first pinnacle. And secondly, obviously, like, there's always fear that you have when you're climbing. But I come from a family that's been into adventure. And I would not deny the fact that, or I will definitely accept the fact that climbing is definitely in my genes. Like, I mean, I have to work hard for it, definitely, but the fear of exposure, or like, what to do when you're in like a difficult situation up there on the rock, I am able to like easily tackle all these situations, because now I can say that I'm trained enough to do that, and I have like enough experience. But back in the day, it was all just me being myself. Like, without knowing a thing, I was able to do all these things. A part of that, definitely, I would say it's like genetic to me. And slowly and steadily, like, the age criteria or the age limit for you to like actually pursue a course, a mountaineering course in India, is 18 years old. So I did my first mountaineering course, like the primitive mountaineering course, basic mountaineering course, which you have to do if you want to like do any other mountaineering courses. I completed that course when I was 15 years old. So yeah, I was like the first one to finish that course at such a like small age, and I completed my advanced and MOI in like 18, and 18 years old I got done with like all my mountaineering courses. So I would just say that ki I've been climbing until since I was 10 years old, and I have gained like experience until I was 15 years old. So because I had like a good amount of experience, the all these courses did not actually, were difficult for me. They were quite easy for me in one aspect, because like the training, I knew everything that I had to like perform in the course, because I had been doing that in the field, in the Himalayas and the Sahyadris. I had completed 2 Himalayan expeditions successfully before starting my mountaineering courses. But I would like definitely urge every person who wants to like pursue something in trekking or mountaineering to do these courses, because even if I knew what the equipment is that I was using, or even if I knew what technique I had to use to like climb particular pitch or like particular peak, it is still like you would never know like, the theoretical thing behind climbing. Like, there's when you climb, there's a climber and a believer. Believer is the one who gives you safety, who provides safety for you. So you're climbing, and there's a rope that connects a climber and believer is the one who's providing the safety. So all my life, I knew like, like this thing is called belay, and the person who's giving me a belay is called a belayer. But if you would have asked me to define what a belayer does or what a belay is, I would have like not been able to like answer that question earlier. And also, I feel like you need to have a thorough knowledge about the equipment that you're using, and it is not just limited to the name of the equipment and what it does, but also to the fact for how long can you use a particular equipment, and what is like the weight ratio that particular piece of equipment can hold, because these things are quite important for you to know in the long run, because you use that particular piece of gear for a very long time, and it deteriorates every time you use. So when to throw an equipment, when not to throw an equipment, all these things you come to know through a course. They teach you skills like map reading, how to like rescue a person if somebody is stuck, and then they teach you how to read the mountain weather and the different anatomies of mountain structures, what is called what, and how do you avoid that if you get stuck in an avalanche, what to do. So you all these things actually like help you secondarily when you're climbing. Say for example, you just go on an expedition, and you get hit by an avalanche. Like, the experience that a person has in general in climbing, that is never going to prepare you for coming out of an avalanche. But if you're like well equippedly trained, obviously, like, you will not know actually what happens, because you're never going to face an avalanche. You might not during a course, but if you have the idea about what is to be done, it is going to be in your subconscious brain. And whenever, you actually are in an avalanche, you will know what to do, which is quite important. And maybe it will make things easier for you. So that is one reason why I would definitely recommend courses I recommend courses for everybody who comes to me asking, like, wanting to like pursue something in mountaineering. But apart from that, like, courses is not like the end of it, because courses only give you like a theoretical knowledge about it. Like, even if you do things practically, they are not efficient enough. So for that, you need to like actually practically get down in the field and physically actually climb to get a better understanding of that. And secondly, I feel like the amount of experience that I've gained so far, and the fact that I've done my courses and I actually know a lot of climbing, it's made like climbing much more difficult for me. Because see, now I know things, I understand things,
Mhm.
and even if somebody in front of me is trying to do something, I will know what they're doing. And then,
Mhm.
it just gets difficult for you to, trust the person in front of you when you know like too much about it. And that is something that's happened to me now. Like, when I go climbing, I'm like looking here and there, like what the person is doing. Okay, fine. And then like I check it like 3 times before, climbing. So before, that was not the scene, because I did not know a lot of things. So I would just like go with my instinct.
The second point you told, I could draw a parallel in that I was swimming from very young age, but I was doing it all wrong. So it's like the swimming that you do as a kid, you just anywhere your hands are going anywhere. But in last to last year, I learned swimming. So I took a proper course and what is freestyle. And as you said, that time it becomes more difficult because you become more conscious, like how your hand is going, how your legs are working. I can completely relate to that. But going back to the uh, point that you brought up, that your family background helped you in this process, and your father is a very experienced uh, mountaineer, and in this field, he has been in this field for a long time. And I think not just genes, but I feel uh, I as a kid, my parents would constantly like tell me, don't go near the edge, or don't climb that chair, or don't climb that ladder, or anything that's dangerous. But I think because your father is so experienced, he must have that confidence that he must have given to you, that yeah, just go, let's see what happens. I think that must have also helped you in becoming the person that you are.
If I am actually talking about that particular thing, I feel like no parent is okay with, your kid actually wanting to do something out of the box and something that's like so risky.
Hmm.
And, in my case, I mean, it was again quite difficult for me because, I lost my elder brother,
Hmm.
right? And but I mean, obviously, I did not lose him to climbing. I lost him to a road accident. But again, like, which only left like I am like the only daughter to the only kid to my parents. So, after enduring that loss, me again convincing my parents that I want to actually pursue something that is this fatal was actually like not convincing enough. And to be honest, I feel like my dad has been like ever supportive. Like he's been like my biggest supporter in everything that I've achieved so far. But and so has my mom. I mean, like my mom still like does not like endorse or accept the fact that I go climbing because she's like, why do you want to climb? Why? I mean, what is the point of like, exhausting yourself so much and like risking everything and then just going to the mountains and not coming back for days together? So like she is still not convinced in that sense, but like my dad has like always shown utmost faith in me in terms of climbing. And also secondly, I could like pursue climbing that early in life was also because, when I lost my elder brother, it actually got my mom and dad to think that, anything. I mean, I actually gave them a reality check, thinking that, anybody can just go anytime and, like anything can happen anytime. So, tomorrow, even if like my something happens to us, Khushi has to be like capable enough to be independent and to do her own things. And that's why when I insisted that I want to like, get into climbing, they kind of agreed to it because it was like one step, it would get me one step closer to being independent in the truest essence.
I mean, I'm sorry for your brother, firstly, and it's so brave of your parents that even after so many things, and I'm sure your father being in this field, he not only knows the upsides but the downsides as well, the risks involved in that field, and still supporting you. I mean, they won't be opposing you because it's just they want to oppose you. I mean, it's coming from a very good place that they want you to be safe, and it's brave of them to support you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, see, like, my dad, like, he knows in the truest form, like, how, fatal
Yeah.
mountaineering can be in general. Like, and every time when I go on an expedition, he knows, like, there's a possibility, like, the worst can also happen. But yet, like, life is so unpredictable. Like, you never know what's gonna happen to anybody. And the kind of faith that he just shows, like, he every time, imagine, like, every time you step out of the house, anything can happen to you. Like, you will, there's like a 90% chance that you might just come back the way you are, maybe with like more experience and more satisfied and happy. But also, like, there's this 10% probability that, the worst can happen. So, having that mindset and still like supporting me in what I do is like, I feel like the one of the best. I mean, it's like it's the most difficult thing as a parent to do, but I'm so grateful. Like, I got parents, who actually like accept that and let me pursue whatever I wish.
This concludes part 1 of our conversation with Khushi Kambhoj. Join us next time for part 2, where Khushi will share her adventures at Everest Base Camp and discuss opportunities in the great outdoors. In the meantime, why not explore the Sahyadris yourself? And don't forget to follow Khushi on Instagram to stay updated on her mountain adventures. You'll find the link in our episode description. Thanks for joining us on Himalayan Diaries from Unboxing Stories. I'm your host Ojas. Together with Shivam Hasurkar, we are the creators of Unboxing Stories. Remember, every step in the mountains tells a story, and we are here to bring them to you. If you are inspired to start your own trekking adventure, please remember that these are not just leisure activities, but true adventure sports. It's crucial to learn, prepare, and take all necessary safety measures before embarking on your journey. Your safety is as important as your adventure. If you have enjoyed this episode, do share it with your friends and family. Please make sure to follow us and leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Tune in next time as we continue to unbox more stories from the Himalayan Diaries. Until then, keep moving forward.